It's been over 500 years since the English statesman Thomas More wrote this short, really strange book about a perfect island society. It was so influential, it actually gave us the word we still use for that idea, utopia. But here's the thing. For half a millennium, everyone's been asking the same question. Was this book a blueprint for a better world, or was it a terrifying warning? Let's dive in and see if we can figure it out.
Okay, so to really get what Utopia is all about, you first have to understand the world it was arguing against. See, More wasn't just daydreaming here. He was writing a razor-sharp critique of the huge problems plaguing 16th century England. The first part of his book isn't even about the perfect island. It's about the very, very imperfect one he was living on.
So the book's main narrator is this fictional traveler, Raphael Hythloday, and he kicks things off by pointing out a really bizarre problem. Sheep are eating people. Now, he's not talking about literal carnivorous sheep, of course. He was talking about this brutal practice called enclosure, where rich landowners would just kick poor farmers off their land, tear down entire villages, and turn it all into pasture for sheep, all because wool was making them a fortune.
And what this created was a society of insane extremes. On one side, you've got the noblemen, who Hythloday basically calls an idle drone, just living a life of luxury built on the backs of others. And on the other side, you have the common person, the plowman, who's been thrown into just miserable poverty and homelessness, working harder than an animal just to get by.
So what happens when thousands upon thousands of people have their livelihoods totally destroyed? Well, they're forced into cities with no skills and no work, and a lot of them turn to stealing just to eat. And the government's response? It wasn't to fix the problem, it was to hang the thieves by the thousands. As Hythloday so brilliantly puts it, the state literally creates the conditions for crime and then savagely punishes the very criminals it has made.
All right, so after painting this incredibly bleak picture of Europe, Hythloday drops a bombshell. He says he's actually seen a place where none of these problems exist, an island way on the other side of the world that he discovered on his travels, an island called Utopia.
And right away, Thomas More gives us this massive clue. It's right there in the name. Utopia is a word he just made up from Greek roots. It means no place, but it's also a pun on utopos, which means good place. So from the very start, he's telling us this is a good place, that is, quite literally, no place. It's a grand thought experiment.
So how did they do it? How did these utopians solve all of society's problems? Hythloday explains that their entire civilization, everything they do, is built on two incredibly simple but completely world-changing ideas. Their radical solution was to eliminate the two things that Hythloday saw as the root of all evil: private property and money. His argument is that as long as you have those two things, you are always going to have greed, pride, inequality, and crime. So if you get rid of them, you pull the problem out by the very root. Everything that happens in Utopia flows from these two core principles. So what does life actually look like in a place with no money, where everything is shared? Well, as you can probably guess, it gets pretty strange. First off, get this. Utopians only work 6 hours a day. 6! And you might be asking, how is that even possible? Well, it's because everybody works. There are no idle nobles, no beggars, no one just sitting around. When every single person is contributing useful labor, the workday can be cut way, way down, leaving the rest of the day for leisure, for learning, for music. Daily life is all about uniformity and community. Everyone gets trained in farming, just to make sure the food supply is always stable. They all eat together in these huge halls. Their houses, they're all identical, and they don't even have locks. Because what's the point of stealing when you can just go to the communal warehouse and get whatever you need for free?
This philosophy really extends to their core fountains. The utopians are just baffled by Europe's obsession with gold. They think it's just amazing that such a useless thing could be so valuable everywhere else. But they don't just think it's strange. They take these really active and kind of brilliant steps to make sure their own citizens absolutely despise it. Their method is this incredible piece of reverse psychology. They use gold for the most disgusting and degrading things they can think of. They make their chamber pots out of it. They forge the chains for their slaves out of it. Criminals are forced to wear gold earrings and rings as a badge of shame. By tying this precious metal to filth and punishment, they make sure nobody ever grows up wanting it. So far, Utopia sounds pretty good, right? No poverty, short work days, no greed. But, and there's always a but, as Hythloday keeps talking, we start to see the price of all this perfection.
a much darker, much more controlling side starts to show itself.
Individual freedom is, well, it's heavily restricted. You can't just travel from one city to another without getting explicit permission and a passport from the government. If you get caught wandering around without one, you're branded a fugitive. Do it a second time, and you're condemned to slavery. The stability of the community always, always comes before your personal liberty.
And their cold logic seeps into the most private parts of life. Before a couple can get married, the potential bride and groom are presented completely naked to each other. I know, it sounds wild, but the utopians think it's insane to choose a partner for life based on just seeing their face. They compare it to buying a horse without bothering to check under the saddle. It's a society where hard logic just steamrolls emotion and privacy.
And their pragmatism can be downright ruthless. For most serious crimes, slavery is the standard punishment. They claim to hate war, but their go-to tactics are assassination and hiring brutal mercenaries to do their dirty work for them. Anything to keep their own citizens safe. They have a moral code, sure, but it seems to apply mostly to themselves.
And this brings us right back to the central question. After hearing about the strict controls, the total lack of privacy, and that ruthless foreign policy, is this good place really all that good? What was Thomas More actually trying to tell us?
Well, the biggest clues might have been hiding in plain sight the entire time, in the very names More chose. We already know Utopia means no place. But get this, the narrator's name, Hythloday, translates from Greek as dispenser of nonsense. The capital city, Amarat, means dim or phantom city. And its main river, the Innerd, it means river without water. He's basically winking at us the whole time, telling us not to take this traveler's tale too literally.
In the end, More's Utopia doesn't hand us an easy answer. Instead, it leaves us with a powerful and absolutely timeless question. To get a perfectly safe, equal, and stable society for everyone, how much individual freedom, how much privacy, and how much personal choice are we willing to give up? It's a thought experiment from 500 years ago that forces us to look in the mirror and think about the trade-offs we're still making in our own societies today.